All right, yo, what's good, everyone? It's JST. So, have you ever seen somebody, a Lars player, either online or maybe you fought against one, do this? You've probably seen that sequence before at some point, and you probably thought, that is the most gimmicky, flowcharty, stupid nonsense. No. What if I told you that that is actually Lars's most deadly mix-up? Genuinely. Don't believe me? Watch this. Afterwards, that. He's dead. He's dead. Now, I know what you're thinking. Surely that's a risk, right? I just did 3 lows in a row. It is risky. You're right. It is risky. But you have to understand that there's layers to this mix-up. This mix-up looks so stupid, but there's layers to it. Let me explain. Starts with the initial attack. FF4. Now, in the first place, this is a crazy risk to go for. Because if I just let Jin block to begin with, right? So it has to be, I think, block all. If I let him block everything, that is minus 30. That is a stagger low. Because it's known in Tekken as a hell sweep. It's a stagger low. One of the most unsafe things you can do. So it's a risk, right? It is a risk. You are starting off with a risk. However, it's a calculated risk because in this aggressive game, sometimes you have to take risks like this. And to go for the sweep, which is 21 frame startup, so sometimes it's like people say it's seeable, but truly most people won't be able to react to it. The idea is you start off your offense with this risk, and you layer in offense. Now, you might be wondering, why would they ever eat all 3 lows like that? Well, it's because throughout your set, throughout your gameplay, throughout your match against the person, you need to establish that he's got multiple options to begin with. So, for example, off of this, this is forward, 4-2. After FF4-2, you go into a stance, dynamic entry stance. So you have multiple options. You have 2, 3, right? And 3 plus 4, which is the stomp. You also have 4, which is another low. So throughout the set, you can establish. So for example, let's say you're always doing FF4-2, 2. So they know, okay, you always end in a mid, right? If you're always doing FF4-2, 3, you're always doing a mid, right? In that situation, people won't really think to duck. But if you then suddenly do, they suddenly know there's a low in there, right? It puts the mix-up into their head. So that's the first layer. The next layer is, off of Den 3 plus 4, which is 4-3, 3 plus 4, the thing is, you also have SEN mix-ups, right? So you have SEN 1, you have SEN 2, 3 plus 4, etc., right? So if constantly, during your set, you're always doing the mid, they'll always be expecting it. Why would you want to duck, right? Let me show you. Why would you want to duck and eat that? You know what I mean? You don't want to be ducking against that because the thing is, the low is only a counter hit launcher. It doesn't launch you normally. So most people will either try to guess it because getting hit by the mid is so annoying. Heat engager plus 17, etc. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why this sequence is so devastating, look how much health it takes off, is because you're conditioning your opponent that you shouldn't be ducking when you see me do this because the mids are too risky. You see what I'm saying? Or, after that, you're telling them that no, if I do the mid, it's gonna hurt. So suddenly the low becomes viable. And the thing is, you might be wondering, oh, can my opponent just mash? No. Look how plus I am. +9. Right? Off of the stomp, +4. So no. On hit, I'm plus. I have advantage. If my opponent attempts to mash, it's actually awful for them. So look what happens if I turn on random counter it. So any of my attacks will now counter it. I'm just going to do that sequence, but like, let's say my opponent mashes at any time during this. Look what happens to them. So they mashed during the stomp and during SEN 2. You see what I mean? If you try to mash at any point during this sequence, you will get counter it. Because you're basically creating multiple situations where your opponent will eat a big counter hit combo. You see what I'm saying? So mashing isn't necessarily the answer. You basically have to take a big risk and either duck immediately and eat that, right? The mid, That is, for example, if you, well, I mean, in this situation, counter it. But if they ducked, they would have got hit by that. And outside of counter it, so let's turn counter it off. Outside of counter it, forward 3-2 is +7. So ducking isn't just like the best idea, because then you're +7. You see what I mean? So there is a fear in ducking against this. Do you know what I mean? So you can't just duck, because if you do, bad things can happen. You know what I'm saying? Right? So you can go for the mid and mix it up. So like the reason why this mix-up is so messed up is because you're creating like 5 layers of mix-up, 5 layers of offense, and each of them creates a counter hit situation. You see what I mean? And as I said, if you don't want to just end in the low every time, you go for FF4 2, right? And if they mash there, they'll get counter it and eat a full combo. So people might say, oh, can't I just crouch jab there? No, I'm +9. Why would you want to crouch jab there? You will just get counter it. You see what I mean? Or, oh, what about here, right? If you get hit by the stomp, if you crouch, so like let me put this to 3 hits. So what about here? No, if you mash there, you'll get counter hit and you'll get launched. See what I'm saying? It's like you're telling them over and over throughout your set that you cannot simply just mash against me, because if I do the frame tight option, you're gonna eat a big combo. You see what I'm saying? Right? So if you then say mix it up, if you duck the stomp, I mean, if you block the stomp, he's -14, because a stomp on its own is -14. If you hold it, it's much worse. You're -14 plus -7, so you're actually like launchable. So if they block the stomp, then that's the end of it. But as I said, it's like that would imply they would have to duck, because like, and I'm glad you asked that. Like, oh, why not just duck? Well, let me give you a scenario where ducking against this situation is a terrible idea. If the Lars has heat, right? If the Lars has heat, you could fall prey to something like this. You could fall prey to a situation like this, where it's like, I do something like, say, like that. Just duck, lol. Do you know what I mean? You can't just duck, because I've got multiple mids. You don't want to get hit by it. So, if they duck after the stomp this time, right? And they eat the mid with heat, I get heat dash combo. You see what I'm saying? So you cannot simply just, right? Because if I go for the mid option, guess what? You're eating a full combo. See what I mean? So if you duck after the stomp, you'll eat a full combo. So in heat, it's actually way worse, because without heat, the worst that's going to happen is, say, if they duck, they'll just get heat engaged, and I'm +17, etc. Oh, that was way too soon. Hold on. See what I mean? So, like, I get heat engager, I'm +17. So, if you duck after the stomp, you'll eat the SEN 1 and get heat engaged. And with heat, I get a full combo. You see what I mean? Simply just ducking against it is a pretty horrible idea. You know what I mean? It's also because, let's say, for the sake of argument, that, so look at this situation. So the Jin is set to punish at a certain amount of hits, right? Let's say that you want to stop me from doing the stomp. Okay, cool. You're right. You can do that. Let's say you've seen this mix up before. You want to stop me from doing the stomp. Cool. Remember, I'm +9. So no, you can't just always mash, because sure, you can stop me by doing the stomp by mashing. However, remember what I said, if I have heat, it's even worse. Because look what happens if you try to stop me from doing the stomp, but I don't go for the stomp. I go for, say, 1-2. I'm going to counter hit you and get a full combo. See what I mean? It's like your opponent has to make a very, very hard risk to stop a sequence here. It either involves mashing early and risking a full combo, or ducking and risking a full combo. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like your opponent has to really... And remember, as I said, you are starting off with a risk. You're starting off with a massive risk. FF4. If the opponent blocks the FF4 and they're good, you're getting full launch. You're taking a ton of damage. -31 is nothing to sniff at. You know what I'm saying? They are taking a big risk by doing that. Right? It's a pretty nasty 50-50, exactly. Like, it's a 50-50 that involves your opponent making a really horrible guess, basically. And also, with heat, there's an additional layer to this, where you can also... I'm going to make it 4 hits here. You can also choose to mix up the final option again. So let's say I'll do that into the stomp, but instead of going for the low, I mix up into Len instead. Because remember, throughout the set, you might have been making your opponent afraid to duck by going for the stomp into the SEN 1, or you've been doing FF4-2 into Den 2. So at some point, your opponent will be like, okay, I don't want to duck. So then that will then hit them because you've done the Len mix-up, and you just don't know what to do. What's up, Jay Walken? I see you in the chat. Like, at this point, you've enabled so many options in your opponent's mind. But mind you, maybe your opponent can't be conditions. Maybe they just don't care. Maybe they've been mashing all set, in which case, just go for the frame trap. Just go for the 1-2. You see what I'm saying? So the point is, it all starts with FF4-2, and from there, you can do whatever you want. You know what I mean? Let's say you want to go for this mix-up. It will lose to Rage Art. It will. The stomp is too slow. So this mix-up will lose to Rage Art. However, this is very important. 2 options from Den will beat Rage Arts completely. Just so you understand that, like, I'm not like a snake oil salesman. Let me show you again. If I try to go for Den 3, I will lose. Right? If I try to go for Den 2, I'll hit him, but I'll lose. However, if I go for Den 1-2, I win. If I go for Den 1+2, I win. It's because I'm +9. Den 1-2 is 11 frame startup. Den 1+2 is 12 frame startup. So if my opponent tries to mash Rage Art, they will lose. And if I have heat, I get a full combo. See what I mean? So, if you know your opponent has Rage, in the first instance, don't even let them try and Rage Art you, because most people will probably just mash. So immediately, cash out. With delayed hop kick, that is not the option I wanted. Immediately cash out. With Den 1-2. It will stop their Rage Art. Like, once again, let me show you. If I try to do anything else, he will Rage Art me. Like, the CPU is set to Rage Art me if I attack him. But he cannot do it, because Den 1-2 is too fast. You see what I mean? So that's why this mix-up is his deadliest mix-up, because they literally cannot stop it. 1+2 is good in an open arena. 1-2 is better if you're at the wall. So let us teleport to the wall real quick. So 1-2 is better at the wall, right? You can use 1+2 at the wall, but the combo is a lot harder. And anyway, hold on. Oh, wait, let me... Because they instant tornado, and the combo's a little harder. So, if you're at the wall, you actually want to do 1-2. And also, as I mentioned, if you have heat, just do 1-2 anyway. Because you get the full combo. So yeah, hopefully that explains that. The most deadly mix-up he has starts with a low, right? And what's really deadly about it is, and I'm going to show you again with the use of his health. So I need to go to player health. Is that if you get the full sequence off and you ended full crouch down forward 2, your opponent's basically dead. Is what I'm saying. That if you have rage, or if you have heat and you're in a good situation, if you do the full sequence and your opponent attempts to mash at the end, they're dead. That was from full health. From full health, if your opponent mashes at the end of that sequence, they're dead. See what I mean? Lars is hard because you need to be ready for all the sound transitions. Yeah, I mean, something like that. So anyway, like, look, you see, that's what I'm talking about. So hopefully that made sense.